I didn't hit this cushion right. I'm so grateful. I'm one of the most graceful nuns I know. Oh, okay. Let's take a moment to do what?
Set an intention.
Set an intention.
Settle our minds.
And settle our minds. Make sure that along with your body is your mind, that you're both present in the room, the body and the mind, because that's helpful. Hello, how are you?
Good evening. Good, how are you?
Anyway,
Hmm. Okay, so let's try to sit up straight, have our feet on the floor or a cushion. Take a couple of deep breaths. Bring to mind the reason that you decided to show up. Pat yourself on the back for following through. We're in a perfect situation to be able to work with our minds, to reduce our suffering, to reduce our regrets, to cultivate our good qualities, because we have good conditions and we have the strength of a precious human body, which has a really superior physical support for our mind, much better than mosquitoes have. The teachings of the Buddha are still available. There are people who still support the teaching so that we can pay for lights and rent and food for the teacher. So we can take a moment to rejoice in all the things that allow us to be here. Free time, no restriction on practicing our spiritual paths. All of these things are due to our past positive actions in previous lives, according to the Buddha. And as we can see, just by watching the news, not everybody has good conditions. Not everybody in this country has good conditions. Not everybody in the world has good conditions. And there are a variety of different ways to have bad conditions. There are wars, there are droughts, there are famines. People are being trafficked. most people just work to survive, just to get enough food to eat for themselves and their families. Even many people who have the opportunity to listen to teachings don't. They're focused on their jobs, on their ambitions, on their accumulation of wealth, and of course, raising their children. I'm the only one in my family who's listened to the teachings of the Buddha, and that's not at all uncommon. That is the norm in our culture. So we have this precious human rebirth. We have really good conditions for meeting the teachings of the Buddha. We have enough free time to practice. We have the intelligence to work with our minds, to be able to really understand what's going on with our minds. Think how wonderful that is. And we could spend all of our time just chasing the little delights of the senses, chasing good foods, nice clothes, nice cars, nice technology, having money in the bank. The accumulation of stuff. And we can be like our pets who spend their whole day just finding that nice spot of sunlight. Or we can use our time, our good conditions, our intelligence to work with our behavior of body, speech, and mind to become kinder people, more generous people, patient people, or we can help others, or we can understand better how to help others, or we can truly start to cherish others more than we cherish ourselves, seeing ourselves as one of a huge human family. And according to the Buddha, the way to happiness, the way out of suffering, is learning how to do this, how to recognize that we're all part of the same family, all sentient beings. The path to happiness is taking care of this huge family, cherishing every member of it as if they were our own precious child. So rejoice in your decision to work with your mind. Make the wish that it will not only benefit yourself, but that it will ripple out to benefit those around you. In this way, our positive efforts can ripple out to benefit all sentient beings. You can recite the 7-limb prayer. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. The refuge prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So how are we doing with our minds? Anybody notice they have a mind lately? Have you checked to make sure? So last week we were talking about some of the positive states of mind, right? Does that ring a bell? We're just talking about anger and things like that. We're talking about, wisdom and conscientiousness, and we may not have gotten there yet. I see nothing but blank stares.
Patience, compassion,
You don't actually see compassion, and you see it in non-attachment and non-hatred. But there's actually not a mental factor called compassion. That's because it's a bigger term. So just to warn you, because people will go, well, I'm not finding compassion in here. This is not an exhaustive list of states of mind. What it is are the states of mind we want to pay particular attention to, because they either get us, keep us stuck in suffering, or they help us out of suffering. So pliancy. All right. I'll go quickly over the ones we kind of looked at, since nobody seems to kind of remember. So we talked about faith. Faith is the first one. And faith is a joyful conviction, clarity, and wishing with respect to an existence that is endowed with excellent qualities and power. So in Buddhism, when we talk about faith, we're talking about faith in something positive. I remember when 9/11 happened and I was in class, and the teacher was, they kept saying, well, the people that took over the planes had faith that this, and he's going, what do you mean? It's not faith to fly a plane into a building and kill people. That it's just not faith. And so just to help you understand the mindset here of our teachers of Buddhism, that if faith has a very specific meaning. It's not just what you believe in strongly. Faith that we're seeking is faith that's in virtuous actions, and that we don't want to rely on blind faith. We want to rely on either our respect for a teaching or a teacher, and say, okay, I think that's probably a good thing, so you sort of develop some clear faith. But then you want to investigate that. You investigate the teaching to see if there's something to them, so that eventually, through practice, you actually see it at work. And so then you have the faith of conviction. So that's the best kind of faith to have. Look at Steve. So, so this is, it's one of the ways in which it supports all of our positive actions, because it's through faith that we've developed this trust that these are good qualities, that we can develop them, and that by developing them, we will suffer less. And it helps us have that aspiration. Believe it or not, we went through all those. Then there's integrity. And integrity is that self-respect we have, that we avoid negative actions of body, speech, and mind, because we care about ourselves and we don't want to do things that are negative, physical, verbal, or mental. This is also called shame in some texts. That's just the jargon. It's the shame. You don't do it because you have the virtue of shame that prevents you, because of your self-respect. So they've updated translations, but if you read an older translation of things, it might say shame, and that might be confusing because we use the term differently. So it's always good to make sure you understand the jargon in a text, because it may not be what you think it is. Consideration is that we refrain from doing negative actions because we don't want others to see us doing negative actions, like our teachers, for example. That's always the explanation in text, And so for their sake, sometimes when we're young, we don't do things because we don't want to embarrass our parents. We don't want to, A, we don't want to get in trouble, and B, we wouldn't want them to see us in that light. So both of those, integrity and consideration, are supports for ethical conduct. Non-attachment. So this is where you have, we know that we have the kind of affection for others that is not grasping at a wrong view about how they exist, that's not exaggerating the good qualities of an attractive object, that it is, yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Oh, sorry. Is this renunciation?
It's part of renunciation. Yeah. Because you do have to have, renunciation is this desire to be liberated from cyclic existence, because you're no longer enchanted by the delights of cyclic existence. You'd rather be completely free of the sufferings of cyclic existence. So it's also an antidote against the craving towards attractive objects. Non-hatred. It's the opposite of animosity, and it's love and benevolence. So it's not just the absence of anger or ill will, it's increasing the state of mind of love and benevolence, forgiveness, fortitude, or patience. I think it's nice to have these. They're not always rendered in this way, where they include, this, what does it mean to say it's the opposite of hatred? That it's more than just an absence of the hatred, that it's actually, replaced with, love and benevolence and forgiveness and patience for others.
What is benevolence?
Look it up. Tell me. Somebody look it up. What does benevolence mean?
Doing things that are beneficial.
Doing things that are beneficial.
Okay, that's in the word. Okay,
You think?
benefits, it's in there.
I meant to look it up earlier today because this is one of those I'm not sure I know.
Yeah, my phone is off.
The quality of being well-meaning, kindness, a benevolent heart. So it's kindness, big-heartedness, goodness. So if you search more deeply, you find things like compassion and forgiveness. People always ask, I don't see forgiveness anywhere. All right, whoops. Non-ignorance. This is, developing wisdom through studying the teachings, from learning how things actually exist. It's our, and in particular, of course, we're looking for things that are positive. We also need to have this wisdom about things that are negative. It's like knowing what to adopt and what to abandon, what to give up. So it's looking deeply at whatever phenomenon we're exploring. Enthusiasm is often translated as joyous effort. I also see it as perseverance, and it's the antidote to laziness. In particular, though, the laziness of doing positive actions, virtuous actions. It's not the laziness of, I don't know, cleaning your house. I don't know. I'm sure that's, now maybe it's a laziness in not cleaning the gompa. But it's really, this is that if we want to develop delight in doing virtuous things, positive things, helpful things, not just, like most of us, like when we have a goal, like we've decided, I want to get this degree, or I want to win first prize at this, or I want to win a race. We have lots of enthusiasm for all the hardship that goes along with it, or you need that enthusiasm in order to win that prize, or da 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 da. This is oriented towards wanting the same kind of enthusiasm towards changing your mind and abandoning what should be abandoned and adopting what should be adopted. So letting go of our negative qualities and cultivating our positive qualities, and then the time to try to understand how things actually exist. Session 5's tonight. So pliancy is another. There are 11 virtuous mental factors. Pliancy is a serviceability of mind and body, such that the mind can be set on a positive object of observation as long as one likes. It's a support for eliminating all obscurations. Pliancy is the result of calm abiding. And what's calm abiding? Yeah.
Just being present.
Nope.
You say no?
I said no.
From the direct observation.
No. Okay, we're going to learn what calm abiding is.
Single pointed focus.
Yeah, it's single pointed focus developed to the extent that you can literally keep your mind focused on an object no matter what else you're doing. You never forget the object. Shamatha? Is that the word? Shamatha.
Shamatha.
Yep. Okay. So that's
She named that.
huh?
She named that.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
What a surprise. I can't pronounce shamatha, but I can
Oh.
pronounce shine.
oh, okay.
It looks like shine. The word shine, it just has an accent on the end, which I don't know how to do on my computer, make those accents. Anyway, So yeah, shene, shamatha, calm abiding, meditative serenity for people who like poetic language. So it's the ability to abide on the object without forgetting, without any distractions of body or mind. So your mind's not getting all those, that, monkey mind, as we say, or whatever, it's the mind going all over the place. It won't do that when you have developed calm abiding and you place your mind on an object. Physical pliancy, your knee won't hurt, your back won't hurt. None of that will hurt when you're sitting in meditation. You won't have any obstacles of body and mind to your ability to hold your focus. So you can see how helpful that might be. We all know how to focus, or we never would have accomplished anything. We never would have learned something new. It takes focus to do that. Develop the kind of insight into how things exist takes this kind of focus. They say you can develop it within 6 months if you have perfect conditions, which means you don't have to work, you don't have to fix your own food, you don't have to do it. You have, what is it, like companions who are also practicing the same way. There are lots of good conditions. Not so easy. Conscientiousness. This is the cultivation of positive qualities by abiding in non-attachment, non-hatred, non-ignorance, as well as enthusiasm, guards the mind against that which gives rise to afflictions. It is the root of containing all grounds and paths. Grounds and paths referring to, the grounds of a bodhisattva and the paths to enlightenment. Paths are minds. So we talk sometimes about bodhicitta, that wish to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. When it becomes spontaneously effortful, you never forget it. Every moment of your mind is influenced by that thought. You enter the path of accumulation on the Mahayana tradition, because you have bodhicitta. If you have renunciation, it's the Hinayana path. So when they say you're on you achieve the path of accumulation, that's a mind. It means your mind has changed. It is now a mind that is influenced 24/7 by this wish to become enlightened for the benefit of others. And conscientiousness is sort of a result of having all these other good qualities, that's what it takes to be conscientious. And you kind of need all of them. So we cultivate all of these. They also say once you've kind of established, or I guess once you have uncontrived states of these things, when you have one of them, one of the 11 virtuous mental factors, you have all of them. So equanimity in terms of mental factors is an evenness of mind. And this is this ability to not have a restless mind or a sinking mind when you're meditating. It's not the same as what we talk about in the four measurables. That's a different kind of equanimity. Now, harmfulness is compassion, preventing disrespect or harm to others, and included as part of non-hatred, which is a patience devoid of intention to injure. So it's compassion and patience. So this is, it's like non-harmfulness is when we take that compassion to the level where we really wouldn't consider, since we want everybody to be free from suffering, we wouldn't consider harming them. So if someone's harming us, we might get out of their way, but we'd have the patience not to harm them back. So faith, we have clarifying or clear faith, wishing or longing faith, trusting or conviction faith, or faith of conviction. And I've actually seen more translations than this. So you'll end up with seeing this like three kinds of faith, and you'll see a variety of collection of words. But if you know the meaning, it's okay if you don't match up the word with the right definition. Because I literally have seen them all. If we knew Tibetan, then it, and if they put the Tibetan in the text so you could see the Tibetan, you'd have a chance of figuring this out. But until our translators of English agree, we'll have a variety. The Tibetans, after about 100 years of having the teachings in Tibet, created I don't know what you call it, they made a decision. Every time this word appears in Sanskrit, it will be this word in Tibetan. And so it's very consistent. That has not happened in English yet.
Not even with English words to English words.
Because we have a lot of words, we have very precise words, whereas Tibetan has very broad words. So one word will have all kinds of meanings in it. Whereas English, we're always looking for exactly the right word. And sometimes it's too narrow for what's really being trying to be conveyed. So, all right, I wanted to give you an example to see how this faith works. So say you've decided, you have faith that calm abiding or Shine is worthwhile. So you want to get shamatha. To develop calm abiding, we have to overcome some obstacles. One is the laziness, which does not enjoy pursuing concentration, like us anti-meditators. And then the inability to continuously cultivate it. So that has to do with it's, really difficult to develop calm abiding the first time if you're not able to that's what you do. That's your job for 6 months. You have 18 sessions a day, very short in the beginning, and you're trying, that's all you're working on is trying to develop single pointed focus on one object. It's often the Buddha, image of the Buddha, can also be on the mind itself. So most of us don't have the condition to develop it because we don't have the freedom to just spend 6 months doing nothing else. And that includes, taking care of your relationships. The only thing you're doing is trying to develop calm abiding. So developing the clear faith that comes through knowing and appreciating the benefits of concentration, one stops the laziness which does not delight in pursuing that practice and generates the wish to attain it. So this is a clear faith and aspiring or longing faith. So one leads to the other. Then one needs to overturn the inability to continuously remain in concentration and continuously pursue that. Pliancy is the antidote to that. Again, one needs to develop the development of clear faith that sees the benefits of having pliancy. Clear faith in the benefits of pliancy leads to the wishing faith to attain pliancy or aspirational faith or longing faith. Pursuing that with enthusiasm results in the pliancy that is required to attain calm abiding, the ability to maintain one's focus without any problems of body or mind. Apparently, when you achieve Shine, first you'll have a pliancy of body, and then the pliancy of mind will arise once you've attained it. And of course, obviously, the longer you're practicing your concentration, the better at it, the less difficulty you have sitting there, so. And then this process will lead to the faith of conviction and pliancy. When you attain it, then then you have proof. And of course, it's not just a moment, so you'll see evidence that that's where you're leading, that's where you're heading. So, when I said that there were, that when you achieve bodhicitta, you enter the path of accumulation. Right? Didn't I say that? Something like that.
Yes.
So there are 5 paths. And when you're on, so the last path, the 5th path, is the path of no more learning. Guess what that is?
Enlightenment? Enlightenment?
Yeah, that's enlightenment because these are minds. So the path is the mind of no more learning. You're there. You have an enlightened mind. The first path, you spend all your time trying to accumulate enough merit to achieve the second path, which begins with calm abiding. You have calm abiding focused on how things actually exist, you know. That's the path of preparation. What are you preparing yourself for? The realization of how things actually exist. The path of preparation is you're preparing your mind for that realization. Okay. When you're just midway on that path, you know you'll get there. So it's not like you have to wait till the final result to have confidence in the path. You will know long before you reach the end of it, which is kind of encouraging, I think. So the path of patience on the path of preparation, there are 4 levels of the path of preparation. When you reach the patience level, you know that you'll never fall back. So it's good to have intermediate steps that are good news. So you also often see in the text this grouping of mental factors: faith, effort, mindfulness, concentration, and the wisdom of special insight. So not just any ordinary insight, and wisdom, but the wisdom that arises from calm abiding. And when these are all fully developed, they're called, or almost fully developed, they're called powers, because they're able to support when you've got those states of mind present, none of the afflictions can arise. However, when you get up out of meditation or whatever, they can arise. Okay. These develop into strengths, which means it doesn't matter whether you've got that state of mind in your head, none of the afflictions can arise. Period. They will not arise. They cannot manifest. That's pretty far down the path. So it's basically from faith, that faith, clear faith, and then the faith, aspiring faith, that comes enthusiasm, the joyous effort. And due to the influence of that enthusiasm comes your mindfulness. I don't want to forget what I'm focused on. I want to remember that that I'm focused on enlightenment. And I want to remember that what does that entail? So all the little steps, you're able to, you're determined and you don't forget what your goal is. I mean, it's sort of like, when you're on your way home from work and you thought, I really should stop at the store to pick up such and such. And then you get home and you go, I forgot to say. That wouldn't happen to someone else. And then the influence of that mindfulness comes concentration. You're able to focus because you don't forget the object. And then when you develop that fully, then you have a single pointed attention. And from that space, you have the wisdom of special insight, which is what we need to realize emptiness. Okay, so we only have one more class. And through that, I'm going to talk about just, the steps of how to change your mind, what we have to do to decide, oh, yeah, I'd like to change this attitude or this habit. And then what do you do to achieve that? So that will be what we talk about next week. So I wanted to review some of the key topics that we've talked about in the 4 previous sessions. Is everybody blank? So what is feeling?
Usually related to an emotion.
Mm-mm.
Sensations.
I'm sorry,
Sensations.
I still didn't hear you.
Sensation.
Okay, now
Pleasant.
this is the mental factor of feeling. It's one of the always present mental factors. Every thought, every moment of mind has this mental factor in its retinue. So what is feeling?
Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral.
Yeah, it's the experience of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Okay, so it's not what is meant in everyday English. So, and it's a ripening of a positive or a negative or a neutral karmic seed. So all our experiences of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, we created the cause by our previous actions. And it's meta condition where it ripens. And also, we're placing a new seed with how we respond to that. So, pleasant is the experience that can give rise to attachment for attractive objects. Unpleasant can be the experience that promotes aversion to arise, anger, negative, the wish to be separated from. This is the principal driver of intention, which is another mental factor that's present in every moment of mind. And intention is what moves the mind towards its object. So, like, we set intentions, right? Okay, I want to work on understanding how my mind works tonight. So I'm going to listen and I'm going to try to think about that later and da 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 da. So you set this intention. So that helps you bring your focus towards that topic and what you're listening to. And your mind's always doing this. And so our habits matter. So, this is why every time the door opens, we look. That's a habit. Oh, I wonder who that is. Who's coming in? Whatever, whether it's curiosity or whatever. But it means we're not focused on what's being said. We're still kind of out there. Whereas if we were watching, I don't know, our favorite TV show, it's amazing what we don't hear in the same house, Someone starts a gun, we don't see it. So these are indications when our attention is weak, when we have sort of inattentive awareness. It shows you that we've forgotten what our object was and we've been pulled away. That's how distraction works, and we all do it all the time. I do it mid-sentence. Oh, what was that? Where was I going with that point? But this is what focus helps us with. Is that we can, and just like we know we can when we're trying to learn something new, see how many people, but it's, so we wanted to know that we have this ability already. Our motivation has to be really strong for it to kick in, So when we're talking about wanting to change our minds, our motivation and the reasons why we want to do it have to really be strong. So we have to contemplate again and again and again why we want to make this change. Yeah.
Do the motivations need to be internal?
That's all they are.
Well, like, oh, I'm gonna better myself for this person or to have this effect instead of, wanting to just really improve yourself for yourself and not for others. You know what I mean?
Those are two different motivations. They're both inner. They're both inner motivations. It's all an aspect of mind.
Okay.
So you can have the motivations that are directed towards wanting to be, feel better about your own actions or just feel better, whatever. You know, you can also be motivated that you want to feel that, you know, want to do that. So you're a better person because you'll treat other people nicely. You know, so it's both. You know, it can be both. But I mean, most of us, I mean, we have short-term things, you know, like I want to act better to save my relationship. That's for me. You know, so it's not that having self-interest is necessarily bad. It's that we want to look at the whole picture, you know, like I want to rob a bank because I want more money, I want more wealth, you know, and I don't care if I end up in jail, it's worth the risk, even though I have children and loved ones that will, you know, hate that. You know, so just, you know, we have to look at the whole thing. So, and we start by wanting to perhaps even have more friends, you know, be able to treat our loved ones better, you know, and all of that comes from, or have less regret when you go to sleep at night. Like, oh, can't believe what a jerk I was. You know, I would really like to change that habit. So, but the way we have connected the experience of pleasant and unpleasant to a response, which is often attachment or aversion, is the beginning of, you know, creating the cause for suffering or for happiness, you know. So it's just this, we don't want to respond just because we have a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling. What do we want to respond to?
Intention.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Intention. You set an intention and you want to do the right thing no matter what.
So what does that mean you're responding to? Instead of responding to the the experience of pleasant, the experience of non-pleasant, instead are we trying to respond to? How do those things arise? Pleasant, unpleasant.
Right.
In our mind, but it meets a condition, right?
The narrative that we tell ourselves.
We want to kind of not have a narrative.
Well, we're responding to the narrative by
We don't
See.
want to have, what we want to do is interrupt that narrative. And
Yeah.
instead, what's happening? You know, see, you know, what's going on and respond to the situation. It can be your mind. It can be like, I'm forgetting my intention there, you know, and you want to come back to it. But often it's, you know, we get what we want and we have this pleasant sensation and we follow a narrative. We create one. Oh, I have more of this and get more of this. This is great, you know, or that's finished. Where's the next thing? You know, blah, blah, blah. We need to understand that by doing that, our days are like roller coasters. You know, we just go from chasing, you know, we have the pleasant feeling, then we have the unpleasant feeling. And if we allow ourselves to just go with that experience in that feeling arena and not take care of whatever's happening. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you consider mind and conscious the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
In Buddhism, mind, consciousness, awareness, all the same thing.
Okay.
So we have eye awareness, ear awareness, as well as mental awareness. So
Yeah, I think you're getting to like, how do we get off the roller coaster?
by not reacting to pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, that's not the important detail. More important details come from our intentions about how we want to behave, our intentions on how we want to speak, our intentions on, you know, taking care of business, whatever. If instead we're constantly going, oh, why did this have to happen? Oh, yay, this happened. Oh, that is affecting our mood, isn't it?
Is this where conscientiousness really comes into play?
Yeah. So yeah. So when when you've got a really strong intention and mindfulness about that intention. And then you really determine to make that change or respond in a certain way. You may not need to make a change. You already have that habit, but you want to make sure you use it more often, like patience, you just want to, I'd really like to be patient in any circumstance that I used to not be. So, then you need, you have to be paying a lot of attention. And the fact that you find an experience unpleasant or pleasant shouldn't make you deviate from your plan. Yes, Steve.
I'm thinking about, the calls I take as a customer service agent. And when you mentioned patience, one of the things in our situation is we have to keep our calls short. And it's very hard to control all the things that people say.
Yeah, we can't
beyond-
control anything anybody else does.
Exactly. And, it's that intention that intention of just being patient that
What is patience? The patience is accepting whatever suffering arises in your mind without the wish to retaliate, without the wish to do harm.
or even to react. I mean,
No, I'm telling you what the definition
Oh,
is.
okay. All right. Well, I'm just thinking in terms of what I'm dealing with.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
it's no different just 'cause of what you're dealing with. So the point is it doesn't mean you just keep talking on the phone or listening because, somebody else wants to talk. It's that, you can cut the conversation without any wish to harm. You can't control if they think you're harming them. It's how we feel in that, or how we think in that moment.
I guess, because that's the thing is how to let them know that you've heard enough of what they have to say to assist.
You say
them,
that.
and without them feeling like you're not interested.
You can't control that.
Yeah. No. Okay.
So that's my point.
Okay.
So you need to have skillful means in your language, so you try to express that, oh, I know what you're seeking, or da 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 da, and this is, blah blah blah. You have to just get skilled at it.
So what they're experiencing is
Their
intention.
mind.
It's like the intention that what I'm saying.
What they're experiencing is them. You have no control over that. Their karmic seed ripening is theirs. You can be a condition, yes. So if you just say, God, I've heard enough of your story, I'm hanging up now.
And I don't have a job anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no self-cherishing there, So yeah, I mean, this is the thing. So you want to use skillful means. Now, if the other person thinks you're being short with them, even though you've been very polite and you acknowledge what they've asked for or whatever the situation is, and you put it in the right, you can't help it. It's not from your side. How they react is from their side. We can't make others act patient towards us.
So it's kind of like just coming from my heart and what I'm doing and saying, and just trusting that's all I can do.
Knowing that's all you can do.
Okay, yes.
I mean, it's just, that's all you can do. Now you can learn, if the customer says, I wish you had said blah, 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 that would have made me feel better. Or when they call the complaint line, and they express whatever, so we can learn, because we have to develop skillful means. That's not, that's a skill, obviously skillful means, but, and some people are better at it than others, and depending on the circumstance, so it's just sort of like, so you think about, how do I, when I feel heard on a phone call and the call is contained, it's short, what is it they say to me? Can I learn from others who are skillful at it? But we can't take responsibility by if someone else has pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral experience. That's from their own karmic seeds. Okay. So when we're working on our minds and our actions, obviously the feedback we get from others counts. That's how we, kind of get a clue, because we're just trying, stumbling around in the dark. But not everybody's going to like us. Not everybody's going to ever think we use skillful means. Not everybody, that's also going to exist. So we can't get ourselves torn to shreds because we don't always nail it.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a similar situation, and I was wondering if it's okay to have like a little white lie, like, okay, I gotta go. I have a meeting coming up. Or one time this person was talking my phone, my ear off.
I don't need that. Yeah.
I called my assistant or texted her, said, call me, so that she hears the phone ring, and like, because I'm trying not to harm the person, but at the
But
same
you
time,
want
I'm
your
lying.
time. Yeah. Yes, that's right. So you want to try to figure out what are skillful means. And I can't tell you how to do that, because it's going to depend on your circumstances, what your boss is, da, 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 da. But I know as a nun, when I used to walk around the grounds of Chenrezig Institute, and it was also, lay people were there, the nuns community was next door, but whenever I'd walk through, people would always come up to you and ask questions, and I might be on the way to a class, or be, or away to a doctor's appointment, whatever, and I learned to say, I'm sorry, I'd really like to hear what your question is, but I don't have time right now. I've got to go. Can we meet at a later time? And then what do you have to do? You have to mean it. You have to say, okay, can we meet at da 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 da? And then if you don't have a phone, these days it's really easy, but you can just, whatever. But you have to mean what you say. And so if all you can say is, I'm sorry, I don't have the time right now, then that's all you can do. People don't have to like everything we do for us to be good citizens of the world. We don't have infinite time. So it's not all about placating people. It's about being honest. I'm sorry, I don't have the time. I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous about the time I need to prepare for something else. And I feel like I'm running out of time. Whatever. I mean, it's just we need to come from a truthful place. We don't have to tell the truth if it's going to slaughter them, because most of the things that we need little white lies for, or otherwise known as tactfulness, is because they don't matter. It doesn't matter whether you like someone's dress or hairdo, or, none of that matters. But we want to try to learn how to be more skillful than getting someone to call us. Because that's not owning your own time.
Like 3 times to cut up the
Oh, I'm so sorry. Everybody in this room's been there.
Yeah,
And one day it's you.
probably.
Not probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Trust me. There's been someone on the other end of the line going, when is she gonna shut up? This is just the way it is. We're not always doing something that's pleasing to someone else. We just have to try hard to notice, when it's not pleasing to someone else, so it's just, this is why apologies are handy. When you say something to someone and they just look at you like you've slapped them in the face, whatever reason, whatever you said wasn't skillful. It doesn't mean it's your fault, because we're all samsaric beings who have all sorts of things going on, all sorts of disturbing emotions arising. We just need to try to work together, and cut people slack, including yourself. But it does mean that, so having intentions, to where you say, I'm really working on my patience, and you remind yourself that in the morning, you remind yourself that once an hour, whatever, however often you need to. So then when the conversation happens, you also may have to reflect on strategies. We'll get to that next week. So, but we want to understand that the fact that every mental event has this pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral component to it doesn't mean we have to react to it like it's important. Doesn't mean we can't enjoy what's pleasant.
What's the relationship between the feelings, benefits, and our actions?
Nothing. The relationship between the feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, that's all this term means in this context, okay, is related to your past actions that have placed karmic seeds or imprints on your mind stream that are ripening. So, it's not, what's happening right now is a condition for that seed to ripen, but not the cause. The cause of your past actions, body, speech, or mind.
Yeah, but mostly our action are not about our feelings, but our benefits.
It has nothing to do with that. It's literally just if you've done something good in the past, you will meet conditions that cause a pleasant feeling.
Okay.
That's a ripening of a positive karmic seed. You will also have done negative things. And when you have an unpleasant feeling, that is the ripening of that negative seed. Neutral is neutral. We do lots of neutral things.
So we don't have the feelings at the moment.
We have it. Every moment of mind has a feeling with it. There's 65 moments of mind in a finger snap. This is very rapid. Okay. So what we want to do is choose how we respond to whatever is going on, whether it's how we're thinking. Like you may go, I'm not following this train of thought.
How do we respond?
Huh?
How do we respond?
You have to choose how you respond.
Okay.
So if you don't want to choose based on the fact that you've had a pleasant experience, unpleasant experience, or neutral experience, you want to base your response on what is it you're aiming for in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a better person, you want to respond with, whatever. It depends on the situation. Instead of being controlled by our past habits, our reactivity is just strong habits. We are habituated to responding in a certain way. Like if someone gives you the wrong change at the store, you might be habituated to saying, you're trying to cheat me. But we don't have to respond that way. We've just learned that response, So that happens. It's unpleasant. But we can choose to just say, I think you've given me the wrong change. You can just, bring it to their attention. Doesn't mean you have to take the wrong change. It just means that you don't have to, because you have an unpleasant feeling doesn't mean that any impatience or anger or irritation or annoyance or distrust or any of those things have to arise. But we are often quite habituated to certain responses to certain conditions. And one of them is unpleasant feeling. We are averse to that feeling.
So we can't not even feel, we can have them all in one.
No, each moment of mind has one feeling with it. It can change rapidly.
Yeah. And it also change the feelings in the future.
Well, if you get in the yes, in the sense that if you were no longer fazed by anything that used to make you impatient, for example, if it just doesn't bother you at all, that becomes neutral. Now, instead of having an unpleasant feeling when conditions used to create an unpleasant, it just won't be. It'll be neutral because you're so habituated to not being reactive to it. There's a lot of information here, so I'm not sure I can explain it all. And
I cannot just focus daily life into one little dot.
No,
which is
because
mindfulness.
there are a million dots a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to work, but we can notice when we're feeling, like we're hooked by something, you know? So like for me, I'm a very impatient person. So I can start to feel it, and now I've gotten so good at it, I can kind of feel it, really early on. And that gives me the option of choosing to respond to the situation differently than my habit wants me to. I don't have to listen to my habit. Now, this is just about choices. I couldn't care less how I feel while I brush my teeth, you know, so it's pretty neutral. This is a hard concept to grasp, but for one thing, we're used to using the word feeling in a very different way. All this means is when in each moment of mind, we have an experience of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Most of them are neutral. That's good news. Until they're all pleasant. That's better news. That's like when you're getting enlightened. Because you don't have any disturbing, there's nothing that creates a condition for you to have a negative emotion around. So they're interrelated, so we can change our habits with long-term practice, then our whole mind changes around it. So impatience just won't come up because you no longer have that habit. I can't imagine this at the present time.
So we should find a way of reacting to make us pleasant all the time.
No, I don't think we can do that. I think it's more that once we realize how things exist, there will be no basis for unpleasant. Right now, we have a false idea of how things exist. And from that false idea, we're in the desire realm. So our sensory experiences have a lot of strength over us. We get pulled this way and that by pleasant experiences. So, yeah.
How do we ultimately understand how things exist?
That's when that's a whole topic of itself that we have a whole course on. Sorry about that. Part of it is just the same thing that we're doing with our mind, where we start to observe, what am I thinking? And where does that lead? Am I making up a story here? Most of the time we're just making up stories in our thoughts. We've got a whole world going on in our thoughts, and it's not based on anything real. It's totally it's based on a reaction we're having. So when we start to notice that, where we really are aware, I am being pulled down in a direction I don't want to go in, and it's because of my thoughts. It's like, have you ever rehearsed your anger? Something happens that made you mad, and then you keep thinking about it.
Yeah, of course.
And then you tell your friends. See, it doesn't have to be, of course, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
That's my habit, and then well, it doesn't help us at all. It's like, okay, how can I drag out my suffering as long as possible? I'll tell all my friends about it and get all that justification for responding in an angry way. So I now have support for feeling miserable. So we want to be able to see that. We want to look at our mind and go, this is not a good feeling. Why am I holding on to it? Why do I want to keep revisiting it so I feel it again and again and again? Why can't I just accept, oh, I got angry, and not create a story about it? And recognize I would feel better if I didn't get angry at all. Now, that takes a lot of practice. So then you understand, you have to go, what is it? This is where I go, what's in this? Where am I in this picture? Oh, I didn't get what I wanted. That's why I'm mad. They didn't say it in the way I wanted them to. That's what made me mad. They didn't look right. That's what made me mad. It took too long. Whatever. They didn't use the right tone of voice. It's not the answer I wanted. You know. So that happens all the time, doesn't it? I mean, we don't get what we want every moment of the day. Often we don't get what we want. Somebody says something we don't want to hear. Somebody does something we don't want to see. Whatever. Even our thoughts. Some subject comes up in our mind and we go, oh, why am I going there? All these things. So if we become less reactive to whatever is arising, we have more choice in where we take that. We can either just let it go. I'm not going to create a story around this. I can deal with feeling, impatient for a second. As opposed to what do we do in our stories? We rationalize why we're right in thinking this way. Of course I'm impatient. Of course I'm angry. Of course I'm blah, 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 blah. Of course I want to suffer. No. So we use logic. We can see that, well, maybe there's another way to respond. But maybe I need to learn how to do it because this is my habit. This is the subject of next week. Okay. Probably didn't get past feeling. Long list of things. Aren't you glad I didn't go over the 51 mental factor? Don't worry, you can take basic program for that. Okay, intention is another state of mind that arises with every moment of mind. This is what moves your mind towards the object. It is action. The action is moving your mind towards the object. This is what's karma. It's, all the negative stuff that we're trying to overcome can be reduced to basically 3 root delusions. Attachment, which overestimates the pleasant qualities of an object, and then we develop craving for it. And we think that that object actually has happiness in it. It's like, with me and chocolate, it's like there's an ingredient called delicious that's in it. That is, that of course it's delicious because it's chocolate. So I don't understand people who don't like it. That's an exaggeration of the qualities of chocolate. There's no such thing as an ingredient called delicious. Non-attachment, that's the opposite of that. It's understanding that these things like, oh, I like it, is just karma ripening. We create enough good actions, we get a lot of what we like. That's part of how cyclic existence works. When we finally remove the contamination of ignorance, we won't be chasing things in the desire realm. Nothing wrong with enjoying things. Nothing wrong with having preferences of liking or disliking. The problem is when we overestimate the negative qualities or the positive qualities and think there's something, that we have to have in order to be happy or satisfied, when actually that's a state of mind. That's an inner process. It has nothing to do with what we get. Anger. It overestimates the unpleasant qualities of an object, finds it intolerable, and seeks to harm its perceived source. So when our impatience gets bigger, we just, when you want to throw your computer out the window, not, I don't know if anybody can relate to that. Non-hatred. So we're aiming towards this state, this habit, whether instead of responding to a source of what we perceive as harm or a source of, what causes us to have anger, with anger, Instead, we have compassion for whatever their circumstances are. If it's a person, if it's an object, we go, oh, I must have created the cause for this. Whatever I did to create this result, I hope I don't do it again because it's terrible. It's taking responsibility for our past actions and their results. Because everything that we experience in this life is the result of a past action. Really strong negative actions in this life may result in results of negative in this life. They may not. But they will eventually. It will catch up to us. So trying to develop this attitude that it is possible, it is a choice to respond to someone yelling at you with compassion. Doesn't mean you have to say anything or whatever, but just say, this person must be suffering. This person didn't get what they wanted. And now, and they think I'm responsible for that. And sometimes you are. Sometimes you did something wrong and da-da-da. But is there any reason for them to react with anger? No, but they don't know that. And so they have that suffering mind of anger. Now we can meet that with the same thing. Or we can choose, I don't want to suffer that way, so I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to try to hear what they're trying to tell me. So you just block out the tone of voice and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, if you can't just walk away. I mean, if your boss is yelling at you, it might be tough. Ignorance is the root. This is the not understanding how things actually exist, not understanding the law of cause and effect, that everything is a dependent arising. It arises out of causes and conditions coming together. Just like what we call the natural world. So one of the causes of a mango tree is a mango seed, right? But it's not the only one. You need all the other conditions. You need water and rain and sun. And probably other stuff. I'm not a farmer. But it's from our misunderstanding of how things exist that all our disturbing emotions arise. Once we can develop that single point of concentration, focus it on how things actually exist, which takes a period of time, because we also have to have contemplated on the teachings on how things actually exist. There are all sorts of debates about it. There are all sorts of things, but mainly the main one is that things do not exist in some permanent, concrete, unchanging way. We have the advantage of living in a time where scientists can tell us that. Nothing about what we see looks like what we see. That's a function of our eyeball and our karma. We also talked about the factors that cause negative states of mind to arise. The main one is that we placed a seed. If we never placed a seed of anger on our mind stream, anger couldn't arise. We would be totally unfamiliar with it, would not be our response. Most of us have seeds of anger, probably all of us. So we are able, we have the capacity to respond with anger or impatience or greediness or whatever. Greed, yeah. Then the objects, these are the conditions. Things that we find attractive or find unattractive are conditions for those seeds to ripen. Detrimental influences are other people, TV shows, garbage we watch, hear, stuff. So sometimes we have to take a break from hanging out with certain people because we're trying to work on certain things and we can't do it around them because they keep encouraging us to not change. I think we've gotten very, very boring. I've got to be the most boring person in my family. So, ah. But this, so it's this, it's us developing enough inner wisdom about ourselves to recognize, oh, I don't act well when I'm around this group of people, you know? And you don't have to judge them. That's not the point. The point is to recognize I don't act well. I think I'll spend less time. Or at least I'll only spend so much time before I start, trashing the world. What we hear, if we listen to angry news, and it just fuels our frustration or whatever. We may have to do that, or you may have to just read it instead of listening to it, because sometimes the way it's presented is so. And then there are days you can't even read the headlines.
Yeah, if it's bad enough, you'll find out without looking for it.
Well, that's a strategy. So you have to come up with strategy. This is an example of a strategy. We'll talk about that next week. Our existing habits of body, speech, and mind are what, that's a condition for us to do it again. That's why they're habits. We meet the same conditions, similar conditions, we just do the same, we react in the same way. And then distorted conceptions, like our ignorance about how things exist, or the fact that we think someone said something harmful to us or mean to us. Let's say that's easier to think about, mean to us, and we're just wrong. We hear things based on all our projections, if someone's dressed a certain way or has a certain expression on their face or has a certain tone of voice, we just think they're being mean, selfish, whatever. We draw conclusions. We can't read their mind, yet we think that we know, when it may have something to do with something they just had done with someone else, or something that just happened to them, or they just hung up the phone, or da 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 da. And we think our unhappiness or happiness resides in what this other person has just done, where we actually have a choice. They also talk about 6 root afflictions. This is just for knowledge's sake. So in addition to the anger, attachment, and ignorance, they talk about afflicted pride, which means when you have a completely distorted view of yourself, and you either think you're better than everybody else, or you think you're worse than everybody else. And then afflicted doubt is the doubt that is tending towards wrong view. It's normal to have doubt, but you want to keep working on it and studying it and answering your doubts and stuff. But once you go towards wrong view, then the odds are good that you're going to end up with wrong view. Now, that's a judgment. They have like 7 examples of pride. I love it. It's a puffed up mind. But Nagarjuna points out that it also includes, when you're derogatory towards yourself, and that's the arrogance of inferiority. It's an obstacle. That's why it's in the disturbing emotion. Obviously, it's disturbing when you're feeling that way, but it's also an obstacle to the fact that you can do it. It's just a matter of, I can't do it right now. We have to develop that inner confidence that we have Buddha nature, Buddha potential, and we can do it. We need to learn a lot more. We need to practice a lot more. It takes time. But it's not because we're faulty in some way. Okay. I'm stopping there because I'm supposed to. Say session. All right, let's do some prayers. So rejoice that you came to explore something, whatever your motivation is, because your mom wanted you to be here. Doesn't matter. Be happy that you helped your mom out. So we want to dedicate our positive actions, our whatever. I mean, just the tiniest little, just the wish that we could do things a little differently and maybe hurt people less is a wonderful thing. And then that places seeds on our mental continuum that will ripen in the future in a positive way. I had it put. Okay. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. This is first verse. Because of all the merits of the 3 times created by me and all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and other sentient beings, may there be no wars, famines, disease, quarreling, fighting, or unhappy minds. May there be great prosperity, and may everything needed be easily obtained. May all the human beings in the world be guided by spiritual leaders teaching only Dharma, and may everyone enjoy the happiness of Dharma. And of course, when you're doing this on your own, you come up with your own kind of things you want to have happen. Long life of holiness. And the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Tenrezi, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters. All the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request, while striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings who suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the 3 jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious one, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, so we have one more of these classes on Wednesday.